Hello, everybody. My name is Abraham Sam Mayedogbon, and it's my utmost pleasure to have you again on this platform known as the Catalyst Coalition. And it's been very exciting. It's been an exciting journey. Our last two episodes was explosive, at least from the feedback we've been getting. And today is not going to be different. I think it's really going to be superlative because we have another special guest in the house. Don't go anywhere because you won't want to miss this for anything. I think God has been so good to us, helping us to connect and source out people that can speak to the issues. You know, both from the position of an expert and also from experience, and people that can speak truth to power when need be, and also enlighten and empower us together. And so you can say I'm excited. I'm excited because I've been interacting with the guests we're having today for quite a while, and every interaction for me is another inspiration. And today we want to look at the different crises bedeviling our country, Nigeria. The trauma the nation is going through. Someone says it's become a killing field. Another human rights activist recently said Nigeria has been hijacked, it's been kidnapped by political masquerades. And another person says Nigeria is being raped. Now, when you listen to this, of course, kidnapping is now the order of the day. Not just in the northeast, northwest, north central, middle belt, but even in the southern part of the country. And we're talking of so-called VIP being kidnapped. The other day, the wife of a chief of staff to a governor, a sitting governor, was kidnapped. A monarch, whether it's first class or whatever, I don't know, was kidnapped and killed. Maybe just shortly after the kidnapping. Isn't this a metaphor? So I'm wanting us to see the crisis plaguing our country as a metaphor, as a parable, speaking to the issue of what Nigeria as a country is experiencing. So what the individuals are experiencing is what the country, the psyche of the country is experiencing. In other words, Nigeria somehow has been kidnapped, has been hijacked, is being raped. It's been raped. Nigeria, and when kidnapping happens, then there's this terrorist arrangement of negotiating and asking for ransom. It seems some people are actually trying to negotiate and ask for ransom now. Or if not, they won't let the nation go. They don't even want freedom or liberty, emancipation that will make for an egalitarian society. They don't want that. And it's like they say, okay, we will not concede beyond this. You cannot have this. This is a no-go area. So that makes me feel like maybe truly we've been hijacked, we've been kidnapped. And so all that is going on for me becomes a metaphor, a parable as to what our country is experiencing. But the real question will be why? How did we get to this point? How did things get so bad? What is responsible? And what is the way out? What's the way forward? This definitely cannot be the will of God. God can be pleased with this. If God is a good God, is a loving God, is a God of justice and fairness, this can be what he intends. And so we have to go beyond religion. We have to go beyond the church wall and the wall of the mosque to begin to have conversation with people, like I would like to put it, people that have been in the trenches, people that have been part of boots on ground, fighting for an ideal nation. And that is the beauty of what we're having today. So I'll be introducing my guest shortly to help us make sense of what is going on. One of the former president of Nigeria said recently, just some few days ago, that the unity of Nigeria is now being questioned by the way the youths are organizing themselves. And by that he means that there is no strong national youth movement, but we have different regional youth movements. So if you talk of Ijaw youth, if you talk of the Southeastern youth, if you talk of Arewa youth, if you talk of OPC, the Yoruba youth, they are stronger. We're not seeing the youth coming together at a national level to engage the sense of national spirit, of national unity. That sense of patriotism don't seems to be there. So we're beginning to say, maybe this is another metaphor, this is another parable, that there are things we need to look into, the structure, the foundation, and what is the way forward. So I'll be introducing my guest shortly. I'm not an expert in this, so that's why we're privileged to have someone special today. So don't go anywhere. Tell others to join us. Whatever is your time of the day, you know truth more. The truth makes you free, empowers you to engage as you should engage, and that is what we're on for today. God bless you. So, my dear friend, here we go. We have in the house today a friend. I call him a distinguished comrade, and you don't know why. He has been one of the people for decades that's been fighting for a just society. And I'll probably allow him just give us a quick background about himself. By name, Malachi Ugumadu Esquire. He is the immediate national president of Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, CDHR, and then his work in different segments of the pro-democracy struggle, human rights struggle, and on and on and on. He's a legal practitioner, as you see. And it's just such a pleasure, such a privilege to have you. My distinguished comrade, you are welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, my pleasure. It is a privilege to be here as well. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Well, you have always been there for us. It's like you become one of our mentors on this path.
Still a privilege.
On this path. So, can you please quickly tell us, because I can capture everything. So I'm trying to say you've been in the trenches, you've been in the struggle. Just a quick background about what you've been doing before now, before the current democratic experiment, and so on, and where you are now.
Well, largely fighting. Fighting for the emancipation of this country. Fighting for the restoration of the dignity of Nigerians. Engaging our society. Pushing the boundaries. And expanding the frontiers, as it were, to give value to who we are. That is largely what has defined my life. And I say this with all modesty, knowing that quite a number of colleagues of mine, persons, Nigerians, patriotic, public-spirited Nigerians have done far more than what some of us have done. But basically, I have been defined by some set of values.
Okay.
Values that point in the direction of what humanity should be. Values that uphold the integrity of man. Values that completely abhors man inhumanity to man. And values that throws up the virtues that makes peaceful coexistence possible and points in the direction of basic future for every human being across board.
And how long have you been doing this?
Well,
if I may.
Well, it dates back to even my primary school.
Yeah.
I remember spending great times in society clubs, organizations that are a bit away from the regular curriculum.
Wow.
Just so that we realize who we are, as young as we were then. And then moving into the secondary school to have these ideas, properly formulated, as it were. and then it blossomed when I entered the university. So much so that
when you were on campus, I learned there was something major that happened. That some sort of positively radicalized you, if I can put it that way.
There were so many of such, and we engaged. We engaged so much so that I didn't leave University of Nigeria until I dragged the school to court twice. I'm talking about the Federal High Court in Enugu. On account of obnoxious policies of the school administration. And we felt we could engage, not by violence, but by questioning the propriety of some of those policies that we challenged. And of course, the result was that when we graduated, my degree was seized, confiscated by the school authorities, which led us back to court for 2 additional years. Between 1998 to 2000. Even when we won at the Federal High Court in Enugu, there were a series of petitions to the Nigerian Law School insisting that some of us should not be admitted. And that if that happened, there won't be the normal sections in the Nigerian Law School. It took the whole of first semester. The law school is for 3 sessions. I did just 2.
Wow.
The first session was embroidered in the same denial of
So sorry if I may cut in. You're saying to us, you've been fighting for people's right, your own right.
And
from university.
That was deliberate, conscious. It's not by happenstance.
Yeah, it wasn't by default.
We chose to do it. The court sessions I talked about, I initiated it. It is Malaki Ugumadu against University of Nigeria, not the other way around. So it was a deliberate thing, a conscious action.
Powerful.
And it was meant to give voice to so many that we know could not.
So how do you transit into the pro-democracy struggle and the human rights struggle at the national level?
Very well. It's a very seamless one. We had very terrible situation in the country, and that was the hijack of the Nigerian state by the military. And so the entire agitation after colonization was to win the battle against the military. And that took a very long time for those who are, familiar with the history. And so once the degree was seized, we didn't find it difficult to align forces with pro-democracy movements in the country, from CLO to CDHR to all sorts. In short, I was immediately engaged as a research officer at the Committee for Defense of Human Rights. Then Femi Falana was the president, and they were very, very, very careful about recruitment of, activists that could add value, and they were deliberate in moving around the campuses all through the country, identifying those who have shown energy, passion, direction, capacity. And so it was easy to beckon at us, and we were ready. We were very ready and willing to give it all.
Yeah, and you also work with people like Ganifa, Chief Ganifa.
Up to the extent that I became in 1998, leading up to 99, before the return of military, I was the National Deputy Secretary of JACON at that age, 24.
What is JACON?
JACON was a Joint Action Committee of Nigeria, led by Chief Ganifa, late Chief Ganifa, and it portrayed the array of accomplished activists in this country.
So I think we owe you more respect. this track record is intimidating.
In some quarters, when you mention all of this, people run away.
This is why I want to embrace you.
People run away.
Comrade, which means if we want to keep unpacking we don't have the time. Now, from your vintage position and privileged position, is it true that there's a fundamental constitutional problem with Nigeria? Has the Nigerian nation been hijacked? Is this the democracy you all fought for? We want you to tell us as you feel about it. Well, and the truth about it.
To be frank is to say no. And to be blunt is to say this is not it. And I say this with a very heavy heart. Considering that many of us paid heavily. My degree was on the line. I had a twin brother with which with whom I went to the university the same day. He studied pharmacy. I went to study law. He graduated with a degree. I graduated with Wahala. And that was because we were ready to put that priceless credential on the line. And if that was what it was going to take to rescue the society, we did it.
And there are people that even paid with their life.
I'm saying that this is just my simple, modest. The Abiolas, for instance, are orphans today. Father gone, mother gone, not on account of any cause of theirs, but because the parents remained resolute and paid with their dear lives. The Rawanis, so many that Chima Bani, Bamidele Aturu, Olaito Yerinde, Dr. Adewu, so many. I can't keep counting.
These are people that paid the supreme price.
Supreme price. In the case of Chima Bani, for instance, it was the same increase in prices of petroleum products. And we have finished the demonstrations and rallies right here in Lagos. And it fell on him, as he was bound to move to the north. And on his way back, having yielded his space to Comrade Shomole on the plane, he took the vehicle. And then at Port Risco's, thereabout, he had an accident that cost him his life. Today, the wife is a widow, the children are without... and thousands of such people. They were journalists who simply disappeared.
Yeah.
There were people who were shot on the streets. There were so many untold stories about the struggle of this country. So you cannot say that this is the democracy we fought about. The democracy we conceived, we nurtured, and sought to deliver was such that we bring back our humanity to us, that we restore our dignity, and then project our future in a way that every prospect will be guaranteed. And give the Nigerian people the opportunity to realize their potentials. That was the democracy we fought for.
Yeah, so are you indicating that truly the democracy we have now, apart from not being ideal, that some forces have hijacked things, both the country, the governance, and probably the treasury? Well, have the Nigerian states been hijacked? Is the Nigerian state, the affairs of the nation, in the wrong hands? What can you say to them, and what caused that? Why couldn't we prevent that when the military was pushed back and when democracy was to be born? Well, so if we're in wrong hands, if it's hijacked, how did it happen?
I think we need to be a bit humble about this and take some blames too.
Wow.
The reason I say that is that I think we were completely obsessed and overwhelmed by the desire to take out the military, ensure that they were returned to the barracks where they belonged, to perform their constitutional responsibility, which is to protect the territorial integrity of Nigeria. But as we were cutting the tree, we weren't conscious of the direction of the fair. We were preoccupied with that Herculean task, because it was indeed Herculean. No guns, no weapons, and you are facing demented soldiers who were ready to kill.
Yeah, no respect for human rights. No social media those days.
No social media, no. So you were literally on your own. So we succeeded at great cost, but we took very little steps to ensure that the space that was created was also occupied to redirect the affairs of the country and give clear direction in the way and manner that things must flow. The drawback was that they regrouped. They simply removed their khaki and put on the Babariga, which was why you had very funny characters everywhere. I mean, for so long, David Mark was the Senate president of this country.
That's right.
David Mark was in league of the military hegemony.
That's right.
That insisted that democracy will not thrive in this country. Yes, they became the beneficiaries and were superintending the commanding heights of our democratic experiment.
And we had an ex-general who was president.
I was just using him, to symbolize, to capture that class.
That's right.
That came back, merely removing their khaki for their Babariga, as we call it here. So And you see them litter all over the place, unable to understand the rudiments of democracy. If you're not a Democrat, you can't deliver democracy. And that was what we suffered. But like I said, we suffered some indiscretion. And we paid dearly for it, still paying for it. So much so that as of today, even the masses on whose behalf you're fighting are confused. They are unable to, because they have now been demobilized mentally. They have been suffused with all manner of deprivations. They can no longer understand who indeed is for them or against them. And in the process, we are locked in, so to speak. So when you talk of democracy that we fought for, the ingredients of democracy are known and they are constant all over the world. What are they? Free media, independence and impartiality of the judiciary. You talk about periodic change of government, of change of power, credible and determinable electoral process.
By an electoral body that is independent
and transparent,
truly independent,
and transparent,
which we don't have.
Which we don't have. But if I throw the question back to you, you see, it's a rhetorical question. We don't have those ingredients and thresholds in our country today as the foundation of any democratic experimentation. And so we couldn't have fought for what we have today. We have a travesty, a perversion, a distortion, and if you like, a total erosion of the principles of democracy.
Comrade, we must go on a short break, but before, just in the next few minutes, we have less than 5 minutes.
Good.
The question then will be, where do we go from here? What do we do? What should we begin to do? As individuals, as different groups across demography, and whether you're religious, whether you're Christian, you're Muslim, students, men, women, what should we be doing that we're not doing?
I think this is by far more important a question than every other thing we have talked about, because the business of nation building requires that we continually review our strategies, our policies, our agenda in a way that gives better and concrete expressions to our wishes. And so if we were where we ought to be, there won't be any need for the engagement that you are having today.
Absolutely.
And to be very fair to this organization, CPJ, a foundation that I'm familiar with, is to give kudos to this effort to continually engage and then try to seek out the real solution other than just agonizing. We need to organize.
We need to
inform. We need to engage. And that is precisely what is happening now. So what do we do? It is our first to accept that this country is ours. Secondly, to realize and accept that we have inalienable rights in this country. We are not slaves. We are not refugees. We are not imported from anywhere to occupy this space. It is our country. And the future of this country lies in our hands. I've often told you that the same Chief Gani Fawemi told me that the strength of whoever oppresses you lies in your weakness. So if you're able to take off those weaknesses and come out from your slumber, let us leave our comfort zones a bit and engage. To engage is to be selfless, to make sacrifices, to help, to give what you have. Is it the intellect? Is it the energy? Is it the resourcefulness? Is it the foresight? Is it the courage to be different? Which is precisely what some of you are doing. Otherwise, you'll be comforted and comfortable in the pulpit. That has not changed the whole thing beyond what we have at the moment. So, but by far more than that is that we need to organize purposefully.
And collaborate.
And collaborate. And, collapse our energies in a way that dismantle this hegemonic occupation of Nigeria by those who don't want us to survive. I think that should be a starting point.
Well, we must go on a short break, and when we're back, we want to hear from you as a legal practitioner issues about what is fundamentally wrong with our constitution. Do we have rights as Nigerian citizens? What are those rights, and why are they not being delivered? So don't go anywhere. I think you're enjoying it like I'm doing. I hope you're enjoying it. And we'll be back shortly. And Malaki Ogumadu, the immediate past National President of Committee for the Defense of Human Rights, is still in the house. Thank you for sharing this with us. We'll be back shortly.
Let us be honest with ourselves. We lawyers says you cannot build something on nothing. The Constitution, the 1999 Constitution, is a constitution that I believe we should jettison completely because it does not augur well. It has created more problems for us in Nigeria. It has given more powers to the executive governors and the president, that in exercising these powers, they have allowed corruption to come. When you have a constitution that only favors the people who are governing us, 75% of the revenue of this country goes in maintaining and sustaining administration. It's only 25% that goes to capital projects. And that is why, since the beginning of 1999, there had been no capital project of note that Nigeria has ever embarked upon. When Shagari was there, we built the Elijah mill, we built the Jos mill, we built Ajaokuta, and many other things. Since this constitution came into being in 1999, not one single project, major project. We cannot have a railway system from Lagos to Abuja. Every country must have from its commercial center to the political center a railway system that, will join you all together. No. Instead, politicians have been keeping the money in their pocket. So this constitution is no constitution for the benefit of the people. It must be restructured.
You're welcome back. Malaki Ogumadu Esquire is still in the house, and it's getting hotter. And I just want to plug him in immediately. We have a short time remaining, probably about 10 minutes. Comrade Malaki, you told us that this is not the democracy that you have fought for, and that some people paid the supreme price. And you took us down memory lane. Very, very instructive. But what I want to know, maybe in this last segment, is what are the things wrong with our current democratic experiment? For instance, what are the most commonly violated rights of citizens? And I know you have been handling even cases pro bono.
Correct.
of people's right that abuse in different sections of the country and so on. What are the things currently wrong with our democracy? Which areas are the right of citizens being trampled, which you have been fighting? And maybe you can substantiate.
All right. Thank you again. The things wrong with our democracy are those things that undermine the tenets of democracy. Do we have fair hearing, independence and independence and impartiality of the judiciary? Certainly no. Do we have a free media? No. Do we have participatory democracy where the people are involved through credible elections? The electoral processes and the contestations that follow, bears that out, and so on and so forth. What about free media and so on and so forth? So the one I like to focus on, which has also been of interest to you, is the violation of fundamental rights. Let us first understand that fundamental rights are fundamental because they are entrenched in the Constitution. Okay. They are slightly different from human rights.
Oh, really?
And that's the technical discrepancy that people are not aware. The human rights are those rights that are new to you as a human being. So you have legs, or you have right to move because you have legs. You can talk because you were given mouth with a tongue. you have freedom of expression and thought because you are given a mind and a brain, and so on and so forth.
So those are human rights.
Those are human rights. They are fundamental because they have now been codified and made entrenched in the Constitution, which is a ground norm of the society. So you have all of those other rights, and they are found in Chapter 4 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. Your right to life, your right to liberty, your right to freedom of expression, your right to movement, your right to religion, your right to even right against discrimination, Section 42. Now, these rights also are captured in other international instruments that deal with fundamental rights. African Charter on Human and People's Rights, the Universal Declaration on Human Rights, the United Nations Rights, so on and so forth. So, when you understand it that way, you therefore will ask the question as to which of these have become the worst victim of our maladministrations.
Absolutely.
I take the right to life, which is primus inter pares, because without that right, Section 33, you can't enjoy every other right. Our right to liberty is wantonly abused in this country. That right is a right that ensures that you cannot be arbitrarily taken away without an express order of court. But I'll give you an example that just on the 26th of last month, if I'm not mistaken, it's not up to a month ago, we obtained and got a judgment, a ruling, strictly speaking, from a high court of Delta State at Owoyibo, Agbo. Here was a young man, an indigent young man, who was going to the farm with the mother in the village with their farm implements, and suddenly the police rounded him off and said, "Oh, please, yes, you were told that you are one of them. Just move him." Before he could know what was happening, they descended on him, they beat him. He didn't know what was happening, and they said there was an armed robbery attack 5 months before then. That was how this young man, Obafe Ambrose, from Ebede, I can mention the name now because we have finished the case, started his journey of 4 years in prison. Correctional center, they call it now. Now, it took a friend of mine who practices law in New York, but a very strong pro-democracy activist in this country before he left. He's challenged in health now. He called me to say, "This is what my community is suffering. I know this family and I can't help." I made efforts to get lawyers to deal with the situation the other day. I wasn't getting very good results. So I prepared the case here and went to Delta State and filed it. After filing it, I drove with my team to the prisons and got, luckily for me, the heads of the prison facilities or correctional center were already familiar with my face, given what we are doing publicly. And they brought him out. The man said, "If I knew what they were talking about, I could bear it." Did they say you came from Lagos? I hear of Lagos. I've never been to Lagos. I do know what they are talking about. It's been 4.5 years now that I've been here. Some of my mates have died. But if I die, if I pass on, just like some of my mates, it is my spirit that will guide you people. To hear that you came, I don't know who you are. And
He's never met you before.
No. Ambrose Obafe from Ebede.
And you are doing that pro bono?
Pro bono, I mean, we finished filing it before I even knew who he was. So, I have not done a case that took that short of period of time because we filed on the 6th of August, 2020. And by November, we've gotten ruling. 5 million naira damages and immediate release from prisons. This is how this boy was rescued from the clutches of, because there was no arraignment. Arraignment in law is when the charges are read to you and you plead. Yes, the charges were read to him, but he didn't know what to do. He didn't say anything. So there was no arraignment and he was just dumped in prison. 4 years, he was in court for just 1 day. No fine.
And this is just a sample. You're giving us just one example.
Pictorial of cases.
Yeah.
All around the country.
Of people's rights being violated. Yeah.
So what about Muslims, the media?
Mm-hmm.
The measure of democracy that can stand the test of democratic tenets can be assessed from the freedom to freely express yourself. And this freedom includes your right to protest, which was what we saw recently.
That's right.
I was in September, I was arrested because we were protesting. And why were we protesting? We were protesting on the basis of the refusal of the government to reverse the prices of increased petroleum products, the tariff, and so on and so forth. In short, before then, VAT was already increased. So we felt that this was becoming too much for a country that was just smarting from recession and a country that had been locked down out of the COVID pandemic. So you don't just fight in the court of law.
No. Go on the street.
I have told the judge, my lord, the National Industrial Court, who said, but I knew you were a senior. I said, my lord, I thought you will also know that I don't just come to court. I also engage on the streets. And this is not what happened yesterday. That has been me. And we will continue for as long as God gives us the strength.
That is commendable. Well, obviously, we need another session because we haven't touched the issue of the Constitution.
Very well.
Some have said that the whole crisis is coming from a problematic Constitution. And we're going to allow you take us into that and take us through that. We need to be enlightened. We need your expertise to shine some light into that. But that will have to be for a different episode. Maybe what we should do now is to take your part in short for this particular episode to just speak to the people, these gracious people who are participating and sending in their messages. We may not be able to give you their questions now, but what is in your heart to say to Nigerians, even in diaspora? Some of them are joining us. What will you be saying that individual should do going forward?
Well,
what is the hope?
Correct. The first is to appreciate this platform. If we have this platform replicated in terms of enlightenment,
yes,
disseminating the right information, engaging, chances are that we build a critical mass. And to have a critical mass is to point in the direction of the solutions, because what it will mean is that they are already being empowered. First, with the knowledge of what should be, and second, with the tact of engagement. What the ruling class resists is an enlightened populace.
Wow.
And this is why, for a very long time, and in my view, very deliberately, the ruling class have ensured that the middle class does not exist. So it's either you are up there in this country or you are down. Forget the Tukumbo vehicles we buy. It's on purpose. It takes a critical middle class to displace a decadent ruling class. And they deliberately ensure that it doesn't exist.
Wow.
This is why an average young man merely succeeds in buying a Tokumbo car in a year and feels he has done. He thinks about how to take the children to school.
Yeah.
He thinks about what the medicals will cost. At that point, you don't engage. You are merely dealing with survival.
Yeah, struggling to survive.
And that is what. So, to Nigerians, you've been great to even survive the contradiction called Nigeria. It's a great feat. But I think that we must frontally begin to ask not just the right questions, to take the right steps.
Wow.
Those right steps will consist in our resolve to say enough is enough. The recent experience of the EndSARS protest is a testimony of what is possible in this country. I'm talking of the capacity of a critical mass to take back their country. And Never in the history of this country have we had it in that form and character. I have been involved. We've not had it in that form. There were a few strategic mistakes, technical mistakes that could be corrected speedily, and then empower this once described lazy youth that has risen to the occasion and shown not just empathy, and shown that they are creative, they are wiser, they are more innovative, and they even showed better leadership. So I would continually ask that the Nigerian people should have to renew their faith in Nigeria. Wow. Think about what is possible from your own corner, and realize that those little bits that you put in collectively can make the change.
Wow. Well, you make me feel like joining you in saying for the greatest Nigerian youth. So you can see the commendation go to the youth of Nigeria for all you've been doing. And just take that word of admonition, that word of encouragement, that if we keep engaging, if we keep speaking out, this sort of Soke generation, if you keep it up, and if we rise up and
make it purposeful, let us be speaking. Let's target at something. There must be an end to the struggle.
And organize.
And that should be to take this country back to us.
That's right. So we can't just keep agonizing. We need to organize. That's so powerful. We can't just keep complaining. Well, we have to bring this to a close, but in the next session, we're going to be dealing with the issue of the Constitution. What are the fundamental issues with our Constitution? We want to have the perspective of Malaki Ogumadu Esquire, who is a senior legal practitioner himself in his own right, and he's been in the trenches, and he's broken things down so well, and we're just so grateful that you've remained standing and your voice is strong. And you refuse to give up or compromise, and definitely you become one of the beacon of hope and an inspiration both to the coming generation and the present generation. So we thank you, and our best wishes and prayer with you.
Thank you.
So thank you for joining us on this special edition of Catalyst Coalition, and we'll be coming your way again with the part 2 of this segment next week. So make sure you join us and tell others. Until then, keep safe, stay on top, and remain strong. God bless you. Bye-bye.